Lightweight trainer or plated trainer? That's not typically a question you're asking yourself when buying running shoes, but in this case, it's probably a reasonable discussion. Today, we're going to be comparing the Adidas EVO SL and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Like I said, today we're comparing the EVO SL with the Speed 4, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to various parts of this comparison, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back and watch the full thing, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been watching for a while and you're not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, turning on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But in 2025, we've been doing daily weekday video releases. Now, before we get into any details of these shoes, I do want to talk about some disclaimers and disclosures, which are that for the EVO SL, I did purchase this one with my own money, but with the Endorphin Speed 4, I got this through my local running store directly from the Saucony sales rep who provided it to me for the purpose of review. That being said, I'm not being paid to make this video, nor have I been giving any talk tracks, talking points, anything along those lines. No one watches these videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these two shoes. Now, when it comes to lightweight trainers, these kinds of shoes are typically going to be either a daily trainer, like a daily use shoe, or sometimes like a workout shoe for shorter intervals. They're built to be really, really lightweight, built to be pretty springy. Typically they have some type of supercritical foam, and so they are made to go fast, but not necessarily to race or necessarily cover like longer distances in. On the opposite end, the plated trainer is a somewhat new category of shoe that came out with the invention of super shoes. Essentially, it's just a stripped down version of a super shoe, oftentimes having something less rigid than a carbon fiber plate, and either having like a dual density midsole or just not having quite the top tier premium foam in the midsole compared to the actual super shoe itself. These shoes themselves are supposed to be training companions to the super shoe, like marathon racing shoes. So in a sense, you could have both of these shoes in a rotation, where this one, like the lightweight trainer, is maybe going to cover your daily as well as shorter interval workouts. Then you have your plated trainer, which is going to be good for tempo, threshold, and long run workouts as well. So like I said, usually you wouldn't be comparing these two types of shoes necessarily, but with these two shoes in particular, there is some rationale between them as to why you may want to pick one over the other. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, looking at the price, the EVO SL comes in at $150, which is a pretty typical price point for a lightweight trainer. Meanwhile, the Speed 4 comes in at $170, which is also a pretty typical price point for a plated trainer, if not a little bit more budget, to be honest. From a spec standpoint, the EVO SL comes in at 8.1 ounces and 230 grams, and the Speed 4 comes in at 8.3 ounces and 235 grams. So fairly close in weight overall. I will say that the Endorphin Speed 4 is one of the lighter overall plated trainers on the market. Moving to the stack height, the EVO SL is 37 in the heel, 30.5 in the forefoot for a 6.5 millimeter heel to toe drop, and the Speed 4 is going to come in at 38 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. So fairly comparable in the stack as well. They're both within about 1 to 1.5 millimeters of each other. Now, looking at the fit with the EVO SL, I do feel like it fits a little bit short lengthwise. So some people have half-sized up and prefer that in the EVO SL. For me, I didn't feel like it was short enough to justify a half size up, and I do think it is fairly accommodating in the upper, so I worried that if I did half size up, that the upper would fit a little bit too baggy. I wouldn't call it full wide though. I would say that it is just accommodating for the most part. Moving over to the Speed, I feel like lengthwise it does fit true to size. I would not half size up or down or consider it either, but from a fit overall throughout the shoe, like a width standpoint, I would say that it also fits fairly accommodating. So both of these shoes in my mind are wide foot friendly. In fact, I would say the heel of the Speed is even pretty much considered wide. Moving to the uppers, the EVO SL has an engineered mesh. It's a fairly minimal, kind of simple overall upper, and I do think that that is by design. The large majority of the cost and technology of the shoe goes into the midsole, so they really just tried to keep it simple. I find that the engineered mesh is really lightweight. I do find it to be comfortable, and I do find it to be very, very breathable, but the upper is not without flaws. For one, the tongue is not fully gusseted, and it is short, which can get annoying. On top of that, the laces do feel a little bit cheap, so I do wish that there was a little bit more care put into the tongue and lace construction. As far as cushion in the heel though, I feel like there's a nice amount of cushion given that this is a lightweight shoe, and I do find the upper to be very comfortable overall and give you good lockdown in the shoe. even without a runner's nut or without a fully gusseted tongue, I didn't feel like I was shifting around in the shoe at all. Really, the only complaints I've heard about the EVO SL have been about the upper. But looking at the price point of $150, I didn't expect a super premium upper, especially because I'm getting a super premium foam in the shoe. Now moving over to the Endorphin Speed, this is what is called a zonal mesh. You can see there in the toe box as well as throughout the shoe that it's a pretty open weave mesh, making it very, very breathable as well as saving some weight overall. The shoe also has some good structure there in the heel, so it has an actual heel counter and some nice actual plush cushioning in the heel and ankle area as well. So it's a very, very comfortable upper for the most part. The tongue is fully gusseted, and I do feel like it's a reasonable overall length, and you still have that zonal mesh on the tongue as well, and just a more advanced, I would say, or more thought out kind of lacing system in the shoe. And so the lockdown in the shoe in the upper was really, really nice overall as well. I will say that the upper is a little bit more of a premium style upper when compared to the EVO SL. But again, you're getting this shoe for $170, and both of these have supercritical foams, which we'll talk about. So that extra cost is potentially going into some of the plate elements as well as the upper and the design there. Now, I will say, because the shoe is fairly accommodating, if not wide, I did have to cinch down pretty good in these shoes to get that lockdown. That being said, once I found kind of my lacing, I didn't have any issues from there. Moving to the midsoles, the EVO SL has Light Strike Pro in that midsole, which is a supercritical TPEE based foam. Really, this is the same foam that is used in the racing shoes. I will say though that it is a little bit firmer than what is in the Adios Pro 4. So the tuning of it is a little bit different. It's more of a daily trainer tempo style shoe tuning as opposed to a race day tuning. To me, I really like that because you still get the large majority of the responsiveness of the shoe. You do have a nylon shank there kind of in the midfoot as well, which gives you a little bit more structure but doesn't reduce any of the flexibility of the shoe. But with that thick slab of foam, what I found that this shoe is very, very pace versatile overall. I was able to take it up to, you know, like I said, repeat paces. So I did 200s, 400s. It felt really, really comfortable. Strides, you felt like you were flying. But the shoe is supportive enough and soft enough that I was able to also do like a 13-mile run with some good tempo paces, or kind of like a hotspot style run. Just a lot of different long run workouts felt amazing in this shoe, to the point that I could confidently race in this shoe as well, potentially up to the marathon and as short as a 5K. This midsole really is one of, if not the most versatile that I've tried really kind of ever. And because it doesn't have a large plate element, you can use it for daily runs. So the versatility is just top notch. Again, it's not the softest in the world, but it is very soft, but it has that more supportive tuning. Something to keep in mind though is I did find that the shoe wasn't super, super stable. So if you are an overpronator, maybe even a supinator, maybe not the shoe for you, but if you have a relatively standard level of pronation, then I feel like you're going to enjoy this, and I've enjoyed the shoe very, very much. Now, meanwhile, going over to the Endorphin Speed 4, you do have Power Run PB in the midsole, which is one of the super foams that Saucony uses, and they can tune this foam to be a daily training foam as well. In fact, they have in the Saucony Triumph. And so Power Run PB, I do feel like this is a slightly more supportive version of Power Run PB than what is in the Endorphin Pro 4, just like the Light Strike Pro is tuned a little bit differently. So it's supposed to be a little bit more versatile, probably a little bit more durable. And then on top of that, you have a nylon plate that does run full length, which creates a little bit more rigidity in the shoe, but nylon is a lot more flexible than carbon fiber, so you can see that you still get some good amount of flex there. Now, I really like the overall geometry of the midsole in this shoe, so it really flows nicely from heel to toe. It shines really, really well in workouts, and I think its best place is probably going to be in that tempo and threshold zone, where you can kind of just cruise at a pace where you can hold from 45 minutes to an hour. A lot of people decided to race in this shoe last year as opposed to the Pro 4 because it's not nearly as aggressive, though it still has some pop and snap off of the ground. I still think that I would take this shoe over the EVO SL. When we're talking about more of those moderate paces, you're just going to get a little bit more assistance from the geometry, that speed roll technology, as well as that nylon plate and structure of the Power Run PB. So I do think that overall this is a better distance shoe, but in comparison to the EVO SL, I think that the EVO SL has more of that versatility, and you can even use this on daily runs, which I normally wouldn't recommend anything with a stiffening agent or plate, whether it's nylon, fiberglass, or carbon fiber, to be used for daily runs, as that will alter your mechanics a little bit or shift the load or strain onto a different part of your foot that you're probably not used to. But there have definitely been some runners who have used the Endorphin Speed 4 as a daily trainer. You just require probably a little bit more durability than some other runners if that's going to be the case. Last things I'll say about the midsole is that to me, the Endorphin Speed 4 is a little bit more stable, though not inherently a stability shoe. Moving to the outsoles, you have the XT900 rubber on the Speed 4 in that kind of banded lattice pattern, which I feel like does a really, really good job. And then on the EVO SL, you have that Continental rubber, which is known to be really grippy and really durable, but for whatever reason in the EVO SL construction, that outsole does get a little bit slick. So if you are running on early morning frosty roads, something, you know, wet terrain after rain, those kinds of things, you may want to think twice about taking the EVO SL out because it does get a little bit slick at times. But if you're running on dry roads, just kind of standard terrain, then both of these are going to do really, really well overall. Now, as far as my choice, personally, if I had to choose one between the two of these, that's really, really hard because I do think that the Endorphin Speed came in at my number 3 overall last year is I think where I put it. And then the EVO SL right now is actually sitting in number 1 overall for 2025. I love both these shoes. I do think that I would have to take the EVO SL over the Endorphin Speed just because of the overall versatility. Like, this could be a full shoe rotation in itself, where I don't believe that this should because of the plated element, but it honestly is very, very comfortable at a variety of paces. So this one's a close one, but I do think that the EVO SL to me edges out the Endorphin Speed 4. If you are going to be using the shoe more for kind of that tempo effort, that threshold effort, then yeah, probably you could lean towards the Endorphin Speed 4. It is not, I mean, it's a phenomenal shoe. People love this shoe. I love this shoe. But if you are looking for the ability to use it a little bit more daily, and if you're going to be racing something, I do think that the top end speed actually goes to the EVO SL. So again, it's close. It's really, really close, but you can't go wrong with either of these shoes. Just some final thoughts. I think that we're going to start seeing more shoes like the EVO SL coming out in the next few years, if not this year as well. The running shoe technology tends to trickle down into daily trainers, and that's exactly what we saw with the EVO SL. Even though this is more of a lightweight daily trainer, we've seen Power Run PB, again, formerly exclusively a racing foam for Saucony, trickle down into the Saucony Triumph, which is very much a max cushion daily trainer. So something to kind of be aware of. Shoes are getting softer, they're getting faster, they're getting lighter, and it'll be really, really fun to see kind of where everything goes. Another note is the Endorphin Speed 4 released last year, and so the Endorphin Speed 5 will be coming out this year, and I have seen it, but I have not tried it on foot. Something to consider is that the overall structure of the Endorphin Speed is changing quite a bit from what I have seen. So I'm not sure how it's going to feel. I'm not sure if it's going to be faster or if it's going to be, you know, more kind of moderate paced. But what I do know is that they said they wanted to go back to a little bit more of its aggressive nature. So if I had to guess, the Endorphin Speed 5 is going to be more similar to kind of a workout shoe for intervals and that type. And then there is the Endorphin Trainer that released this last week, which is maybe going to be more of what a lot of people use the Endorphin Speed for in the last few years. Just some thoughts, something to think about if you are considering these two shoes. I'm not exactly sure the release date of the 5, but the 4 should be going on sale fairly soon as well. Now, if you stuck around this far, I sure appreciate you. Please take a second, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what other shoe comparisons you'd like to see in future videos, and tell me what you enjoyed or what I could be doing better to make these videos more educational or more entertaining for each and every one of you. And lastly, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video. And as always, we will wrap up with a question, which is, what do you do your interval workouts in? A plated trainer, a lightweight trainer, or maybe even a super shoe? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.